We're building a couple for some people overseas right now.
That's so wild. Is 16 volts a common thing now? This is a wonderful side adventure to this whole insanity. It is working on the alternator. If you look at the logs, all the way at the top of almost whatever 1300 horsepower, the voltage started dropping off on the 4-rotor. That alternator is phenomenal. It's meant for a 2-rotor. Well, the company reached out to me, and I'm gonna go visit them and take a look at the alternator that was supposed to be on the 4-rotor. This was sold to me. It was second hand, third hand, fifth hand. And it's made by the same company, oddly enough. So they're gonna help understand how to hook it up. I don't know. You get a couple more wires than you're used to on an alternator and things start not making sense. So we're gonna take this one, and then we're also gonna do some other cool things with the alternators for the other cars. Speaking of the other cars, I just got the Garrett core in for my 3-rotor in the middle of all this, so this is gonna sit for a second. It's not only an unboxing, but partially because UPS, you guys, UPS damaged it, and the delivery guy was an awesome guy. They always are. I was like, hey, does this look damaged? So I'm gonna make sure it's not damaged. It looks fine in there. Well, Garrett knows how to pack a core. That's awesome. Well, that's you. What's the first thing you said when you got it?
It's heavy as fuck.
Yeah, that thing is heavy, and that's a good thing. That is super compact.
This thing is gonna breathe. The 3-rotor is just gonna freaking scream.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, we're gonna CNC the end caps for that. Your little boombox. Oh, they did bend it a little bit right here.
Oh, I see right there on the top, a little bit slightly.
Not too worried. That's awesome. That's gonna be a solid 1,000 horsepower. I'm gonna go take the alternator and head out. This is it's actually 390 amps. That's gonna do way more than we need. Whereas the one that's on there now, this is actually a 180, so 180 amps. I could be using up to 180 amps or close to it as the system comes fully online, but it would be fine. Honestly, I would leave that if I was gonna keep the car the way it is, but you know, we're gonna have headlights going, other extra fans. I don't wanna hit the brakes and then now I'm ruining my ability to use ignition or something like that. Something else that's super exciting is I got new tires on my whip. They had to special order them, 165, 65, 14, all 4 installed. Tire and installation costs less than one of my rear tires for the 4-rotor. Make it pretty easy to figure out who they are. I just brought this in, and look at this. Oh, that is so cool. Oh, wow. Oh, you actually put it on the pulley too. That's awesome. Oh my god. This is super exciting. The guys are gonna show me how alternators are made. Do you guys see tools missing after my walkthrough?
Yeah, no worries, no worries. We have your address now. I mean, from the process, really, it just all starts from raw materials. We start from the bar, straight to the saw, and straight to the lathe.
These are raw alternators?
Well, we go from raw slugs down to here, and this is the raw frame right here. This is what that frame looks like before it gets into the mill. This is all the lathe. The lathe does all stator bore, bearing bore, all the main internals of it. It keeps everything concentric also. Concentricity is a big thing when you have something spinning that fast.
Yeah.
You have your rotor in there, you have your bearing. Then we bring them over here, and this is where they go into the mill. Go in here, we can actually put all the holes into them, put through holes in them for your bolts. Bearing retainer holes, flip it over, and that's where you get your outside shape, all your windows, all your vents. And right now this is before it's going out to anodizing, so there's a few more steps that will get done later on to it, but right now it'll get out, go to anodizing, and it's pretty much it in a nutshell. It's not a very difficult process.
Because you guys have honestly perfected it.
Well, yeah, and I mean it isn't a production process at the point, so we're not making 1 or 2, we're making 50 of them, making 100 of them, making thousands of certain part numbers too. So
that's so
it all depends. Actually, that's the one that's going in your car right now. That one for the RX-7 there.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's all aluminum, so it's all like cut and butter, really. It's once it comes out of the machine, we'll over here and we'll deburr a few pieces here and there. Just a couple of the spots that really can't get done in the machine. We also do all the pulleys in house. Same thing, pulley.
Okay.
Raw material straight from the saw, straight to the lathe, and they come out. We'll get them anodized, so we get a hard black anodizing on them with the 7075 too. A little more of a robust aluminum that we can run, and kind of, especially on the pulleys.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So when somebody orders an alternator, this is basically what they're ordering. We do every single order per order. Usually don't have anything in stock because a lot of the time when stuff's in stock, it sits. When you order an alternator, it starts off as a big aluminum slug here. The way that I kind of think of it, I think of it as like a blacksmith making a samurai sword type of deal.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Primarily 6061 is what we use for these housings. Once we have everything pretty much in place, the frame's cut, the bearings installed, the engraving's done, we'll bring it over here, and then we'll start the build process. Nothing is remanufactured, nothing is technically aftermarket, other than the housing itself. A lot of places, they require a core charge, and that's the number one question we get is like, do you take cores? We don't take cores, so we build everything brand new. A problem with a lot of alternators is you get remanufactured units and you won't even know it.
That little part?
That's a spacer for one of the triple brackets that we have.
I've never actually seen a CNC lathe
really
run in person.
Okay.
At least aware,
this is one of the smaller ones too.
Oh, you guys know a thing or two about alternators?
Yeah, so these are going to be all 24 volts that we're sending off to Australia. We're building a couple for some people overseas right now.
That's so wild. Is 16 volts a common thing now?
So 16 volts is one of those things where old dragsters used to kind of use it because they couldn't get the reliability out of a 12 volt unit, right?
Yeah.
So they would go to 16 volt system, run down that battery, let down a run, and they wouldn't have to worry about the voltage because the voltage was already at 16 volts.
I see.
Back in the day with the quality, they weren't able to keep up with the demand. Because you got like 800 to 1,000 horsepower dragsters that you look at their motors, they don't even run alternators. They just run 16 volt batteries.
Right, okay.
So 16 volts is cool, but the problem is now you got to run a higher voltage battery, and then you have to have an external regulator in order to do that. So you're putting more stuff in it, which in my mind, the way that I think of it, it's just more shit that can break.
Agreed.
I just recently had a guy who called me and he was like, hey, I have this 14 volt battery and I want to run a 16 volt alternator. And we had this like hour-long conversation about it. I told him like the quality of alternator that he was buying from wherever else just wasn't up to par. That's what guys do. They get tired of 12 volt systems, they run up to 16 volts, and then they realize, oh shit, like this is what it takes to run 16 volts.
Yeah. Wow, this is beautiful. If you could do me a favor in explaining what one of these is, what a 180 amp unit is. Okay, here's what's so special about these alternators.
Yes. So basically, it's a 6-phase Denso unit. When you look at the Denso units, the coil compared to the other alternators, like this for example, you can see how much more tightly wound this is.
Wow.
So realistically, you have about 300% more copper, a standard RX-7 alternator, the old Hitachis or Mitsubishis, whatever they were. When they heat up, like something like this loses about 30% of its overall performance. With this, it only loses about 15%.
Whoa, okay.
So it's a much cleaner power. This has a total of 12 diodes in it. Normally alternators have 6 diodes. This has 12. A lot more heat efficient overall. Combined with like a standard internal regulator that just works off a lamp and sense with a 14.8 voltage set point.
Yep.
I mean, when you kind of hover around, you'll see like 14.4, 14.5 volts once everything's all warmed up, compared to like, I mean, an LS alternator is very popular for some reason on a lot of these applications, and with all the load, they probably see maybe 12.8, 13.3 volts.
Yeah.
For a lot of cars, that doesn't really cut it.
When I was at the top of my dyno runs, and I saw the voltage starting to drop off, am I correct in saying I was using more power, more amperage?
When you're at high-end RPM, you're obviously going to be using a lot more amperage, mainly because your fuel pump's putting out more power because it has to be able to deliver more fuel to the car, your ignition and all that stuff. Your fans, obviously, they have to be spinning at 100% because if they're not, then you're looking at heat soak and the car runs warmer. And overall, the car runs worse, especially within hot rods, electric fans in their cars, and not realizing that a 60 amp alternator, I mean, pretty much that's already 20, 30 amps of power just to run the car.
Oh my God,
and so now you have 30 amps of, I guess, reserve, and that's not enough,
Right.
We used to do a lot of work for the guys that used to tune for like the SR20 convention.
Yeah.
So those guys, when they would be dynoing, they would see a lot of drop off at high RPM with like stock SR alternators or AutoZone K alternators that are, repurposed for SR.
Yeah.
Guy came to us, he's like, hey, we just need an alternator for an SR20. I was like, okay. So we put one together, and now at higher RPMs, they don't see any problems because I don't know why, but a lot of Corvettes do the same thing. When they're at top end, the voltage just dives off. I was watching your dyno run, and I was seeing 14.4 volts, and then when you would shift and go to the next gear, you would see it kind of like jump just slightly, 13.8, 13.9, and that's why I thought it was, it made me kind of slipping. But now that I know that you run a cog pulley,
Yeah.
it's probably something else. You're hitting your max at that 180 amp alternator rating.
Yeah.
So you're hitting that capacity. I mean, we can go bigger obviously with the 390, but like even in this housing, we can do up to like 320 amps.
That was my next question. 320 amps in this.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the only thing there is that you really have to compensate for the change, because when you take this is a small case Denso winding, right? Yep. And so this is 128.5 millimeter diameter, and that is a 138 millimeter diameter, which is what that 390 is.
Yeah.
So when you take these and you wind these up to do 240 to 320 amps, you lose idle output. You'll gain top end, but you lose idle output.
Oh, okay.
So if you kind of remember with a lot of guys that would rewind alternators, that was
Yeah.
usually the case, is they would see high number, but when they're at idle, nothing, 12
Yeah,
volts.
okay.
So
Okay.
with those large ones, those will do over 200 amps at idle, no problem. You don't have to put a smaller pulley on them.
Okay.
You don't have to adjust anything. If we go to 320 on this,
Yeah.
then at that point, I'll say, hey, what's your crate pulley diameter, and then your engine idle, and then your red line, and then take those numbers, get the ratios, and then say, okay, a 2 1/4 inch pulley is going to be what you want to run at, or we can go to 3 inches.
This case is amazing. The way my chassis is designed, it just, the bigger one was difficult, but this one fit just perfectly. I've used it now in the 3-rotor, the 4-rotor, and the 2-rotor. So I've used it in all my different cars, and it's been just a very perfect setup for me.
Right.
Is there kind of middle ground, 180, 300 maybe?
Yeah, there's a 180, which is the base, which will give you about 130 amps at idle capability. So
Okay.
just sitting there, and that's great for like guys that idle and waiting for that are pitting and all that stuff.
Yeah.
We do have a 240 amp alternator. It hits probably a max of like 260, and that does about 115 amps at idle.
Okay.
And then there's the 320 amp that does about 100 amps at idle. 240 would be the middle ground. So we have a lot of different configurations. This is just like the most common one that we do for the RX-7. If a lot of guys have different bracketry that they can run, we can put this out the back here. We can move it in 4 different other positions. Position number 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, we'd move the bracket around, but with this bracket, it's tough. But there's a few different positions we can put it in.
What do you recommend for the power sensing line? Is that this alternator is reacting to the voltage coming in on that line, and then adjusts voltage from there. Should that line be ran to the battery, to the core? Where would you?
What makes most sense in my mind, because so many people have so many different ways that they do that, right?
Yeah.
I tell them to loop the sense wire right here.
Yes.
Because that's where you get the cleanest power from. Some people like to run it to a bus bar. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And some people like to run it with the engine harness. That's always been done.
Because right now on the 4-rotor, I just have it looping back to here.
Yeah.
And my concern was, I have double aught from the battery to the starter, and I think I still have double aught from the starter to here, or single aught. But then I have 2 gauge running to the computers and stuff like that. And so I was like, okay, that 2 gauge might throw me off.
So basically, each point that you hook it up to is a resistance point. So the starter is a resistance point.
Yeah.
If you have a big enough cable, it's not a problem. The bigger the bridge, the more people you can get across. So the bigger the wire, the more current you're able to get across more cleanly, the better readings. If you're running into that issue where you're seeing a lot of voltage up at your battery, to run a bigger wire.
Yeah.
You can show whatever you want. Did this for West Coast Customs a long time ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we did the Beaver CTSV.
Guys, this is crazy. This is the exact opposite of what my first impression was. I thought it was, an overseas company. It's all here. It's all done in-house. It's insane. Obviously, I love geeking out. And this is one thing in particular that I've wanted to learn more about and hear it straight from the guys that build them. Alternators are such a critical part of the car. It's not even like an opinion. It's a fact. You can't run the car without it. That 4-rotor deserves the best, and clearly I've got it. But look at how cool that anodized car engraved. Oh, that is so sick. And of course, we're all geeking out off camera, working on CNC, the Haas machines. They were showing me some more cool stuff about that. But I'm gonna go ahead and take the little anodized one back, cuddle it, trying to avoid putting it onto a car because it's a piece of art, like everything else on the cars, and get right back to it.